Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Amira and I'll do a brief introduction on our HR issue. Our HR issue is about forced labor allegations abound. Our HRM issue is about a labor workforce at the world top supplier of disposable gloves company that arises drastically during a coronavirus outbreak 2020. So the worldwide coronavirus pandemic has raised demand for rubber gloves, which has led to worsening conditions for migrant workers in Malaysian factories that produce most of the world's supply of the protective clothing. So the pandemic increased demand for workers to meet rising production needs. It also made it challenging to hire new workers due to the Malaysian government freezing foreign labour recruitment as part of mobility restrictions to contain the virus. So companies who pre-pandemic mainly employed migrant workers or turned to hiring local workers, but persistent understaffing effectively put additional pressures on workers. According to the Malaysian Rubber Glove Manufacturers Association (MARGMA), Malaysia holds 60% of world glove supply due to its vast rubber plantations. Even before the outbreak, there have been long-standing complaints of harsh working conditions in Malaysia glove manufacturers, including long hours for minimum wage, small dirty dormitories, and also horrific injuries. So the research confirmed long working hours of a mean average of 12.02 hours a day. While 12 hours is the longest working time exclusive break permissible under Malaysian law. So workers report that overtime is mandatory and they often view it as an opportunity to increase earnings. However, a small number of workers will push over these limits. Many workers reported not receiving their statutory entitlement of a rest day per week, and this appeared to have worsened during the pandemic in the context of demand on the industry.
It started when the top glove corporation in Malaysia announced that its net profit soared more than fourfold to 7.87 billion ringgit in 2021 because of the high demand during the pandemic COVID-19. Top Glove is known as the world's largest medical glove maker, where the company needs to supply more of their products because they need to follow the international order to fulfill the demands in Europe, United States. However, it makes Top Glove exceeding its capacity of productions. This factor lead to the human resources issues such as forced labor. Employees or workers in this company majority coming from Indonesia, Bangladesh, Nepal and Myanmar, but the employer does not use International Labour Organization rules. And this is in line with the issue of low wage rate compared with the working time. Every day, the worker must put in at least 12 hours of overtime, work 7 days a week and take only 1 day off. Meanwhile, they do not receive compensations from the company. Next issue, blaming culture within the workplace. When the manager blame workers when they make some mistakes by directly reducing workers' salaries without calling a first warnings. As a result, increases cases of stress, depression, and anxiety among the workers. HR issue in the top glove industry give a huge impact, including employees, investors, customers, and the company reputations. Forced labor means that any work or service that people are forced to do against their will, usually under the threat of punishments, and is also considered as a crime. Firstly, HR issue often directly impact the employees. This could include concerns related to the workplace culture, employee relations, performance management, compensations, benefit, and other employment-related matters. In this case, we can see that the employee have experienced dissatisfactions and compromised working conditions when a range of wage promise or bonus for overtime and facilities are not provided by the company. Next, investor might face risk when the company have HR issues. It will lower stock value or monetary losses as a result of possible legal actions, lowers productivity and the reputation harm to the business. Moreover, they may be faced with a high turnover rate, so the lack of worker in some positions as well as lack of quantity of the products. Some customers consider justice, fairness, respect, and equality of economic activities. Therefore, unethical companies such as Top Glove will potentially lead to the loss of trust and a shift in consumer preferences. For instance, in the age of online review and social media, dissatisfied customers can easily share their experience with a wide audience. The negative review of the Top Glove can influence others and create a lasting impression that is hard to overcome. Lastly, forced labor will give a bad reputation to the Top Glove corporations. The negative publicity surrounding HR issue can tarnish the image of the company, which make it difficult to recruit, retain talent, and ruin relationship with a partner and a client. This can lead to the decrease in sales, customer trust, and ultimately the profitability of the company. Having a good company reputation is important because it can increase customer engagement and generate greater market value and shares for the companies.
So moving on to the next part, which is analysis and discussion. Based on the problem that Top Glove face, such as forced labor, low wages and blaming culture, these are serious concerns regarding ethical and labor practices. Another violation that Top Glove did to their workers is charging them large sums for essential documentation, such as passport and visas. These constitute a violation of international labour standards and ethical labour practices. And in addition, the absence of transparency in contracts and Top Glove promise of high-paying job led to worker debt, highlighting a lack of fair treatment. Apart from that, the working environment makes the situation even worse. Workers have to work 7 days a week plus overtime, minimal leave, and there is no compensation for every overtime. All of these are threats to the well-being and work-life balance of the workforce. The discrepancy between demands for working hours and the low wages given to workers make it even clearer that workers are treated unfairly by Top Glove. Furthermore, the blaming culture in Top Glove, for example, employers deduct wages without prior warning, which led to heightened stress and anxiety among workers. Other than that, the toxic working environment in this company will harm workers' health, such as stomach ache, and also give them headache, which have the potential to cause long-term problems. In addition, a narrow workspace make it more difficult for workers to move around. So to face this HR issue, the company should adopt international labor standards to ensure fairness and transparency to their workers, and also include eliminating the charges for essential documentation, providing clear contracts, re-evaluating compensation structures to reflect fair wages, and building a positive workplace culture that emphasizes constructive feedback rather than blaming each other. Besides that, local and international authorities need to investigate this issue and take serious action to hold them accountable for their unethical labor practices. Prioritizing employees' well-being is very crucial for every company, not only for ethical reasons but also for the overall success and sustainability of the company.
We will discuss the potential solutions to the staff on how to proceed in order to address this issue. The employer's first course of action is to report any violations to the appropriate authorities, such as the Labour Board or Human Rights authorities. Employers should gather proof of the management's forced labour practices, such as excessive overtime, poor living conditions, and identification documentation. The second option is to contact advocacy groups to obtain legal counsel through rules or policies it might alter things within the organization. Additionally, when staff members cooperate to stop right violations, it can create pressure and awareness among managers. Other than that, netizens can raise awareness in social media about forced labor happening in Top Glove. This will help to stop the employer from violating human rights and be more transparent. Also, to create better knowledge for consumers about your brand and not supporting them by buying products produced by forced labor employees. Move on to the recommendation. Recommendations that can be taken as human resources are conducting internal investigation to establish the facts so that if wrongdoing has occurred, the reason for it can be identified and steps taken to prevent it from occurring again. Second, implementing ethical labor practices such as developing an awareness of potential ethical issues, promoting organizational culture that encourages ethical conduct, and having formal policies and training in place to guide employee behavior. Third is to practice transparent reporting mechanisms such as clear communication, accountability, disclosure of information, and accessibility. Lastly, to take serious employee complaints and helping so that managers can foster trust and psychological safety with their people, which can ultimately boost organizational learning and performance. Move on to the last slides, which is Islamic perspective. In Islam, upholding labor rights is a component of business ethics. Thus, Islam advocates for a few topics related to labor rights. The workers' right to justice must come first. To prevent ambiguity, the second step is to have a proper and explicit agreement between management and staff. Based on Hadith riwayat Tirmidhi that stresses how crucial it is for two sides to agree, says, people should abide by their agreement unless there are conditions in the agreements which are unlawful and not in accordance with the code of Islam. Listen Surah Al-Qasas, verse 28. The old man proposed, I wish to marry one of these daughters of mine to you, provided that you stay in my service for 8 years. If you complete 10, it will be a favor from you, but I do not wish to make it difficult for you. Allah willing, you will find me an agreeable man. The verses clarify that Allah ordains not to overburden the laborers. Even the Almighty never begins His creations with something out of their capabilities. Hence, what is the motive of Allah's creation to overburden laborers or subordinates but also His creation?